Well, my name is Blanka. I moved to New York in 2003, and I'm originally from Mexico City. And I moved to the States at the age of 4, and I grew up in Los Angeles. And I went to school in California. I studied art, and after graduating, I moved to San Francisco, and I lived in San Francisco for about 10 years. I actually have been living in the Bronx since 2005, with a little break in between, but I have been living in South Bronx since that time. Because I was invited to teach art in a middle school up in Hunts Point. Out of all the boroughs in New York, and the fact that I'm not in New York, I've always been very interested to see what happens all over the city. But the Bronx is very specific, not only because it's really a borough that is the greenest borough in New York City, and I think people forget about that. If you don't walk around the Bronx and really understand the geography of the Bronx, you'll never get that. But it's the demographics, the diversity in the Bronx is also very specific. It's very Caribbean, African, now Mexican. But I feel very, very at home in a place that contains that type of diversity. So I began a project in 2008 in my apartment called the Bronx Bedroom Project, where I invited artists to exhibit in my bedroom. And artists came and they really just took over the entire bedroom, and they were exhibiting work for an entire month. And in addition to exhibiting the work, I also asked that they were invited to cook a meal for about 20 people and to do a workshop based on the work that they were exhibiting. I began this idea because, as I said, I'm not originally from New York, so it was also a way to kind of get to meet more people. And at that time, I actually was doing the AIM program at the Bronx Museum. So many of the artists that participated during the first year were artists that I met through the Artists in the Marketplace program at offered through the Bronx Museum. In 2016, I decided to take my bedroom back and actually create the project in the living room. So it has the same, but it's in the same spirit as the Bronx Bedroom Project, but now everything takes place in the living room. It's not something that I came up with. This is something that artists have done all over the world and in different times and periods. So what I've learned as I've been doing this project is that by having something in the intimacy of your apartment, many things change within the dynamics of the apartment for me and for the people who live in the apartment, but also what it does with the people who come and visit the space. The type of coming together and the networking that people do in that space is so different than if you go to an established art venue or a gallery or a museum where people really I guess because it's a home, people are more relaxed. And when you're relaxed, and if there's a little wine involved, and there's, you're just much more at ease with anything that is happening. And I think you're more open also to getting to really engage in a conversation with anybody in the space. So yeah, I think it allows for networking, it allows for people coming together, to getting to know each other in a very different way. Well, I've been doing art since I was I really started in high school, but where I felt like this is the thing I want to do for the rest of my life, it happened my freshman year in college. And I've discovered that it's one of the places where I feel completely free. Like I feel that anything that I want to do, an idea that I want to express, or like when I am actually in the moment of creating whatever it is that I'm doing, I don't feel that freedom in any other space but in that moment. So it allows me to feel free. It allows me to also share that experience with others, because I feel that there's sometimes so many few places where you can really feel free and be yourself and be open, and that it taps into every aspect of my life. So I'm an artist at home. I feel like an artist when I'm in the street. I feel like an artist when I'm making love. I feel like there's a lot of things that extend through my life and through just everyday living as being an artist. That I feel that there is that space of possibility, of always questioning things, of always trying to understand why it is that we live in the world that we live in, you know. So I think art is one of the fields, not the only one, but you know, it allows for us to continuously question the things that happen within ourselves and outside of ourselves. As a woman, you know, as a woman in the world, I mean, it's wow. I mean, it's hard, you know. It's not easy. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter if you are within a family setting, whether you're. I mean, it doesn't matter what your journey in life is. But there's something that has to happen within you that you have to understand who you are. Like you have to be the sincerity that comes in the honesty to what it is that you want to do in the world for yourself primarily, and then extend that to the communities that you live in, to the world in general. But there's I think that, and it's not easy, you see, because as a woman you're almost sort of expected to play certain roles or to behave in certain ways. And especially in this country where we're so divided by race, by color, by, you know, many other things that, you know, always dictate the way that you're supposed to behave. But there's always that little voice inside of you. It doesn't matter what color, what gender, and that knows who, that voice inside of you knows. And I think that if we can listen to that voice clearer and louder at a younger age, because in my experiences, I feel like I've listened to that voice, you know, a little later in life, not as a young, you know. So how can we tap into that voice and make it really loud from a younger age? And I feel that the generations now I feel they're speaking it a little louder than we did. You know, there's things that are happening in the world that were not happening when I was growing up. That I feel very fortunate that I see that women from a younger age, I feel they're much more empowered than I was. You know, there's a sense of, and perhaps it's because it's a different generation, and it's because we're discussing things that need to be discussed. Particularly in the American experience, you know, it's very different if you live in a different country. But in this context and in this setting, the things that we are discussing, race, color, you know, gender, and the way we address them, I think is a very, very, very important part of who we're becoming, you know. And these things take a long time to change, but the fact that the discussions are there and they're open, and, you know, we can talk about, you know, what we need to remedy and where we've been, because we know. I mean, you know what's happening. It's not, you know, if you don't know the history of the country, if you don't know your own history, then we're completely lost, you know. We're just, as, you know, as Baldwin used to say, you need to know your history. And he was obliged, you know, he said, I know my history and I even know your history. Because in order to move through this experience, you have to be aware of what's happening. Otherwise, you're lost in this muddle of confusion, you know. And that's how we end up with Trump. I was expected to fit many roles that at the end I did not conform to. And, you know, it's just, there's things in life that you understand that they're part of just, they're part of a discussion, a lineage of an expectation of who you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to fit into certain roles, but then if you don't, you know, the whole narrative changes for you. So it's always kind of trying to, like I said, listen to that voice within you of understanding your own personal narrative, independent of what is expected from you. Like, there is a narrative that you carry within yourself just for the fact that we're human, you know. That's that your beating heart is there, it's guiding you, and we should listen to that heart a little bit more too. You know, go at the pace of the heart. You know, all this rush, it's unnatural for us to just be like sapping and seeing things so quickly. We have a heart that is dictating the rhythm, and we forget that we have to listen to that rhythm. Instead, we go too quickly. So it's that voice that determines who you are, and you know, excuse me. And by doing that, you know what's right and what's wrong. No, nobody has to tell you. You know what's right and what's wrong. And then you follow the rhythm of your heart. You slow down. So I try, but it's a challenge. It's a daily challenge, because I am in a place that, unlike many other places that I've lived in, has a very different rhythm. I mean, the rhythm is already dictated by money, by speed, the city of New York, New York City is, the grid is speed and money. It's already there. It's already within the nature of the way it's, the urban planning of the city is that. But to be aware of that, that's why being in the Bronx for me is like, I come to the Bronx and I feel like, it immediately just changes, although I'm not that far away from Manhattan, but once I reach the house, I know I'm no longer part of that running grid that dictates many things that happen in this place. Yeah. So, thank you. Thank you.